Look, after watching OU's mediocre performance, and I mean it was pretty mediocre, beating UTEP 24-7 in a game that was closer than what the final score might indicate, we all know that OU is not going to do better than 8-4 if they keep playing like that. But it's just a season opener. I've learned my lesson from a couple of years back in which I thought that it was going to be a long year for OU after they just barely beat a horrible Utah State team and beat them by merely a touchdown. We've learned from the past and learned that with Oklahoma, you expect the unexpected. And we've also learned, too, that Bob Stoops and his coaching staff are amongst the best in the country, and they know how to make adjustments. What happened the week after Utah State? 2 years ago, you might ask. They played nationally ranked Florida State, and they beat them 47-17, looking like a completely different ball club. Now, there are some concerns with Oklahoma. There's no question about it. First of all, the timing between Landry Jones and the receivers. Other than Kenny Stills, I didn't see terrific timing between Jones and the new batch of receivers. You might remember on my weekly matchup show, I highlighted 4 keys to the game. Well, the very first key I highlighted was the new group of receivers because Stills was your only full-time receiver back from last year's squad. And in the first half, the only receiver other than Stills to catch a pass was Justin Brown, and that happened with 8 minutes to go before halftime. Granted, the offensive line didn't help out much because there wasn't a whole lot of time for Jones to throw, but at the same time, it just seems to me like Landry Jones just didn't trust his receivers other than his go-to guy, Kenny Stills. And that's something that definitely has to be corrected. Now, in the second half, we did see Brown get a few more passes and Trey McGuire finally get into the act, the true freshman. And then eventually the touchdown, which gave Oklahoma a little bit of a cushion at 17-7 in the fourth quarter to Brandon Green. But still, the timing's got to be a little bit better, and Landry Jones just can't depend upon Kenny Stills. Defenses in the future are going to figure that out and going to pay even more attention to Stills and say to Landry Jones, try to beat us another way. Some good things, though. I did like the foot movement of Landry. You could tell that during the offseason he did get into a little bit better shape, and he did get out of the pocket a little more frequently, including that big touchdown in the first quarter that tied the ball game up at 7 when Jones got out of the pocket and was able to throw it across the field and find a wide open Stills, and Kenny did the rest. So offensively, no doubt a lot of work has to be done with the timing, and of course the offensive line's run blocking, which I thought in the first half didn't give OU a lot of hope for success because there wasn't much there. The holes were not very big, and that made life harder for Dominic Whaley and for Damian Williams as well as for Brendan Clay than it needed to be. Thank goodness that in the second half, OU was able to wear the Miners out. Now, I do give credit to UTEP because in the beginning of this game, they definitely played more aggressive than OU. You couldn't tell who the favorite was when you saw these two teams on the field in the first half because OU did look tentative, and at the same time, UTEP was more of the aggressors, and they did get the crowd involved. It was a pretty good crowd, by the way, at Sun Bowl Stadium. Didn't look like a sellout, but it did look like it was at least 90% seating capacity. Not bad for an opener for a game that UTEP had been waiting for since the offseason. This was pretty much their Super Bowl, their bowl game, their game of the year, and they did play like it. If you're Oklahoma, be thankful for the victory. Be thankful that they had a field goal kicker, or in this case, field goal kickers, who couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, missing 3 very makeable kicks. Be thankful as well that UTEP was having a difficult time trying to keep in shape in the fourth quarter, constant cramps, players happen to come out. You didn't see that problem arise from Oklahoma. You could tell that the Sooners had a little more depth, they were in a little bit more better shape, and didn't have players leaving the game like UTEP did. And be thankful also that UTEP, despite how hard they played and they were able to stay in this game all the way up to the fourth quarter, be thankful that the Miners did not have a terrific passing attack. Part of that you give credit to the OU defense, but also it was not a good game at all for Lamison, the UTEP quarterback, who completed only 6 passes out of 23 attempts. By the way, neither team turned the ball over in this game. Both teams were horrible on third down, and both teams made less than 20 first downs for the ball game. It was an ugly game. and it was a game that UTEP was able to run the ball very successfully. Definitely some eye-opening things for OU to work on. But also remember, too, Casey Walker, he did not make the trip due to a non-football-related injury. Of course, Stacy McGee, who knows how much longer he's going to be out. I think once you get those 2 tackles back, that's going to help out big time, because I'm telling you what, Nathan Jeffrey, the UTEP running back, he was big all night long. I know you had a hard time stopping him, and Tom Ward from his middle linebacker spot, he was having a hard time too. He did not have a good game at all, but I did think that Mike Stoops and that secondary, I thought they did a terrific job of covering. Give credit to Colvin, give credit also to Tony Jefferson. The OU defense did not give up a point on Saturday night. As a matter of fact, the only touchdown that Oklahoma gave up was off of a blocked punt. Highlighting another key to the game, one of the 4 keys that we talked about from the weekly matchup show, getting QB pressure. I'm going to go B- in this category. Terrific game for David King from the defensive tackle spot, getting some good inside penetration on pass situations, and also R.J. Washington, I thought, did well. They didn't always get to Lambison, but they did make him probably throw a little bit earlier than he wanted to, and the chemistry as far as throwing the ball for both teams was not good, but it was especially bad for the Miners. Key number 3, take advantage of the moment, meaning take advantage of UTEP mistakes. I'm going to go C-. I actually had OU at an F in this category in the first half. Justin Brown, playing his first game as a Sooner to transfer for Penn State, had a fantastic punt return to midfield, and then a few plays later, it looked like OU was going to cash in on a long pass play from Jones to Steele, and then the play gets called back because of an illegal block by Dominic Whaley. So didn't take advantage of that moment, didn't take advantage of those moments in the first half. After 2 missed field goals by the Miners, OU, the following possessions, couldn't cash in, came away empty-handed. And then also a blocked field goal as well. And that one looked like it was all on the kicker. That ball just barely left the ground. So there are many things to work on, especially the special teams, though. And that leads me to number 4 on the 4 keys that I talked about on the matchup show. And that is limit the first game jitters, meaning you're going to make mistakes, but keep them at a bare minimum. I'm going to go D in this category. And I'm going to go D because of the fact that the Sooners, even though they had 5 penalties for 45 yards, that happened in the first half alone. Not for the game, but in the first half alone. They had some offsides, had some illegal blocks, had delay of game, and then, of course, we mentioned having a punt blocked, run back for a touchdown by Nathan Jeffrey, the star of the game for UTEP in a losing cause. Thank goodness, though, the special teams also hurt UTEP as much as it helped them with those 3 missed makeable field goal attempts. Otherwise, OU is going to be trailing 16-10 entering the 4th quarter rather than leading 10-7, and who knows how the rest of the game might have played out. Those missed field goals were devastating for the Miners' attempt at an upset. So overall, I was completely wrong, but then again, I think almost everybody was wrong when it came to analyzing this game. UTEP played very hard, very determined. They got my respect. I give credit to Mike Price and that Miners team. I don't know how the rest of their season is going to lay out. They still have to play at Ole Miss and at Wisconsin later in the year, and they have to handle Conference USA. You hope from Mike Price's standpoint that this isn't the last year he's there. This is his final year of his contract, and they haven't had a winning season in quite some time. So you know the pressure is on Price. But if you're basing his performance upon the way his team played tonight, he definitely deserves another contract with the Miners. He's well-liked in that area, well-respected. Players love him, fans love him, community loves him. And if you're basing it upon the way they played tonight, you'd have to say that UTEP's going in the right direction. It's just that they didn't have the depth. They weren't in as good a physical shape as Oklahoma, and they could not pass consistently in this game. They could not take advantage of those opportunities as well. They played hard, but OU in the end prevailed. They survived 24-7, but they know that they got to get a lot better if they're going to be worthy of that top 5 ranking that they have. But don't be surprised if they drop a spot or 2 in the upcoming polls that come out. The pollsters, I cannot imagine, are too impressed with the Sooners despite the victory. Up next for OU, it's the home opener as they will play Florida A&M, the Rattlers, and you'll have to pay $39.95 on pay-per-view if you want to watch the game or go to the game or try to find someone who's going to have the game at their house or business and see if you can spend 3.5 hours in front of the tube, and hopefully you'll see a better performance next week than what you saw against the UTEP Miners on Saturday. But you know what? Could have been a lot worse. It could have been a loss, and for a while, the outcome was in serious doubt until the Sooners finally pulled away. By the way, Damian Williams, tell you what, I love his spurt ability. I love the fact that he gets in the open field. He makes things happen. He's not a strong back, but terrific in the open field. We saw that with that big fourth quarter touchdown run that made it 24-7. The pluses in this game, again, I like Jones, Landry's footwork, and also the OU pass coverage. Remember, Sooner defense did not give up a touchdown on this night. And I also liked Kenny Stills. Thought he played a pretty good game. And then the minuses, of course, the run blocking wasn't good. The run defense was terrible. And that's something that they got to work on, and hopefully they'll get Walker back soon, and hopefully McGee will be back from his suspension, but who knows if and when that will take place. And then also the Sooners didn't turn the ball over, but they did have 3 fumbles tonight. Thankfully, all 3 of those fumbles went out of bounds. So my weekly matchup show between OU and Florida A&M probably will be sometime Tuesday or Wednesday, and OU should be able to blow out those guys, but then again, they should have been able to have blown out UTEP, and it turned out to be a much tougher game than anybody could have thought. But the Sooners do prevail and start 2012 with the win, 24-7 your final over the UTEP Miners. Boomer Sooner.